What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Brian Mazilli. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm good. How you doing?
Not too bad. Did I pronounce your last name right, or is it more of like I know that when you get the double letters in Italian, you usually have to emphasize it a little bit more, and I was kind of sloughing it. So how do you pronounce your last name?
That's it, Mazilli.
Okay,
Double I,
sweet.
double L, double Z.
All right, good stuff. And Brian is a commercial real estate investor, just like everybody I interview in these chance encounters. And why are they coming onto this show? Well, I go through the 5 different motivations that I found distinguish commercial real estate investors from each other. And I say, hey, which one of those is you? And then I go through the Dan Does Deals commercial roll die, which has the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. You can get your own copy at dandoesdeals.com. It's free. I don't even ask for your email address, which is terrible practice in online marketing. But what I want you to do is I want you to print it out. I want you to show it to your friends and family and be able to communicate on the subject of commercial real estate far more effectively. But before we get too far into that sort of stuff, Brian, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
So I'm Brian Mazilli. I'm a real estate investor located in Massachusetts. I do investments in different states. So currently I'm in 4 different states. Just kind of go where the migration patterns go and, looking for the jobs and the different growth sectors that I look for: industrial, health, education, and, whatever makes a good deal. Then I'm interested in looking at it, setting up the proper teams, and right now I currently have over 60 doors, and just purchased another big one that's a potential 50 more. So I'm starting to roll, and just still learning. It's a lot to learn in this field.
Good stuff. We have a lot of people on this show who are just learning. Some people would argue that we're all still learning. But because I have a lot of noobs on here, one thing I like to do is I like to go through the motivation piece first. And sometimes that means I have to hit that right there for it to actually work. So let's go through the 5 different motivations, because sometimes newbies, they don't know what role they're going to be playing. I'm sure Brian does, but we'll go through these first. The first motivation I found is preservation of purchasing power. Okay, so the biggest players, they're already relying on the cash flow that comes from their assets. Okay, but when inflation rears its ugly head, it means they're going to have to make a new acquisition so they get more cash flow, or else the party is over. So that's the first motivation that I find some people are up to. That's not really mine. My bigger one is I want to trade time for wealth directly. I've got a background in technology, through development. I worked for a CRM company, and then after that I built an agency to help different online businesses just integrate their CRM, do all their marketing, all that kind of fun stuff. But the problem with that is you're making your income in the form of salary or wages, which means that you're paying more in tax than anybody else. So I was going like, well, that doesn't sound so smart. So I pivoted and I said, how can I get that wealth directly? And that's why I'm in commercial real estate. But the next reason, the next motivation is the most frequently chosen one I've found, which is that people want to fast track retirement. And if you read between the lines, that really means that they want to take more control of their time and wind it down. So maybe they want to do fewer hours per week, or maybe they want to do fewer weeks per month, or fewer months per year. No matter what, it's a winding down sort of process, as opposed to the next 2 groups where they're never going to wind it down. The first one, they're never going to wind it down because they're after generational wealth. They're ambitious people. Maybe they want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold down a day job. that's the people who, they're going to keep on hustling forever and ever and ever just because they want to see how far they can ride this horse. But the next group, they tend to find a sector of society. Maybe it's the environment, maybe it's animals, who knows what it is, but they recognize that accumulating wealth is by far the most effective vehicle in making a huge impact on society. So they end up making these acquisitions so that they can make a bigger difference in more people or animals or the world's lives, existence, all that sort of fun stuff. They like to save the world. So those are the 5 different motivations. So Brian, which of those 5 or what combination of them do you feel describes you best?
Well, I really like the fact of building the generational wealth and the passive income. So, I have 3 kids and my wife, of course, and all of my kids are into real estate now. My youngest is 18 years old, and she wants to buy multifamily before she's 20. So, this is a goal that I've had for a long time, and I feel very blessed that my children are following in the footsteps and learning, the same type of thing. So I think the generational wealth to me is the biggest thing, and the credibility that I can show my kids, like, I can do this. Anyone can do this. I didn't grow up wealthy. I grew up pretty poor, like most people, and it's kind of a lot of learning. And I bought a lot of things before I realized that there were actually mentors out there that can teach you. I never really knew what that was. So I just kind of read a lot of books and started buying my properties. Luckily, I haven't had any mishaps. I've been pretty careful. And so that, I love the fact that I'm helping people and building wealth. And, that's it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful answer. Yeah, I really love that. I love real estate, and I'm saying it to my kids as well, because I feel like, it's the only way that you're going to leave the door open for retirement anyway. Like I keep on telling people, you either have to play the game or you're going to lose at it. And that's including if you're, a high wage earner. But that doesn't really help you unless you actually understand the business. So that's why I have the deal die here, and I'll explain each of the different roles so that way you can learn how to effectively communicate on the topic of commercial real estate. So the first role I'm going to talk about is the repositioner role. That's the person who they are definitely involved in the acquisitions thing, the part of the whole deal. But what are they doing when they look at the deal? They have a fancy word, they call it underwriting. Okay. And that means they're doing the math, and they're doing the math. Why? Well, first they need to find out if the property is actually making what they say it is, what the seller actually say it is. But the other thing that they're up to is they're looking for upside. They're saying, how can this property make more money than it currently does? Well, how can we change it? How can we reposition it so it's making more money? And the main tools that they have in their tool belt for that, the first one is more efficient operations. If you stop those Benjamins from going down the toilet, then you're automatically in better shape. There's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and collecting rent. There's also bookkeeping. There's a marketing piece, which is one of my fortes that I'm bringing to different commercial real estate teams. And that means that the vacancy rate stays low. So that's one part of operations, and that's one way you can get some upside. But these days, real estate's so hot, that's probably not going to be enough. So the repositioner generally gets a contractor team to do value add, aka renovations, aka make the place nicer so people will pay more in rent. Okay, so you get your contractor in there to fix the things up. But if the repositioner is like me and they're from the internet, they got a problem. They're going to need boots on the ground. They're going to need a local who can check in periodically to make sure that the contractors are keeping to their deadlines. They're not cutting corners. And also same with the operations team. And these 4 sides, they look like the list of owners, but it's not that simple. If you want to buy an expensive property, you're probably going to a bank and saying, hey, this property's worth tens of millions of dollars. Can you lend me, say, tens of millions of dollars? And the financiers are going to be like, well, okay, so here's the property, here's your team, okay, but hey, wait a second, there's something that you haven't mentioned, and that is, who's the sponsor? Who's the KP, okay? A sponsor or a KP, maybe they're hands-on. They're supposed to be somewhat hands-on at least, okay, but they might be a little bit more hands-off compared to the repositioner. They might be the one who's actually moving things forward. But if you want to get a loan for a commercial property, somebody in the fold has to already own a similar asset. So even if you're Elon Musk, if you want a loan, you still have to have somebody who owns a similar asset. And there are a couple other things that you need. One is you need a certain amount of liquidity on hand, and you also have to have a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Brian, as far as core competencies go, it sounds like repositioner is your big one. It sounds like you're getting into some sponsorship or KP, but don't let me put words in your mouth. What are your core competencies that you're likely to contribute?
Yeah, I think that's real important, everything that you said on there. And I'm kind of following that guideline where I interviewed a lot of property managers because I invest a lot out of state, so I'm not there boots on the ground. So I hire people that I trust, do a lot of interviewing, hire general contractors to do my work. We do a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of scope of work. Have to fly down there. I do have a partner on one of the deals that's going down there quite a bit and kind of watching things over and giving me updates. But yeah, we don't deal with toilets, and we don't deal with the general maintenance. That's all stuff you have to dish off. You can't take all this stuff on yourself. You have to hire a team, and that's kind of the key to everything. Hiring the right team in the certain areas. And once you get that established, it's not so scary. Dealing with the banks. Banks, they're not too tough. They all want the same type of information. So once you realize what they want and you have a little credibility behind you because you've done some deals, they allow you to get into some bigger deals. And I think that's kind of what everyone kind of sees. Building credibility with the folks in the communities and the different investment groups. Something I haven't done in the past. I've kept all my investments kind of quiet and didn't tell people I was doing anything. I kind of came out the beginning of the year and started saying, hey, I own all these properties, and, my friends and even people in my family going, what the hell are you doing? How come we didn't know this? I'm like, well, I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want anyone's opinions on it. I just wanted to do what I do. So, now I'm kind of looking out and I'm saying, I could partner up with people. And, now that I'm joining these different groups and say, boy, I could scale a lot quicker than I've been scaling. So just finding people and, like you said, just trying to, build better teams and better systems. And, that's kind of what I work on.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and on the digital side, that's exactly what I've been focusing on, and that's actually why I leapfrogged over residential. My last boss, he was focused on residential. They were flipping 10 houses a month, or at least doing 10 transactions a month anyway. And I was going like, well, it doesn't scale if I'm going to be remote based, right? If I'm not going to actually be present where the houses are located, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think my teams would be like, well, why is he here? Even though like I'm making it explicit, well, this is what I'm doing or something like that. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, and also just scaling in general. If you're buying one property and you're saying, okay, well, this is going to take me roughly 6 to 8 hours a week, what I think should be going through your head is like, okay, well, what about the next one and the next one? Okay, it's like for your first one, it's like, sure, you got a little bit more wiggle room, but if you're painting yourself into a corner, you're in pretty big trouble. But you mentioned that you talk to operators a lot. Some people say that's betting on the jockey rather than the horse, and I love that whole analogy. But just to be crystal clear, and one thing you should know in the audience here, like commercial real estate investors, we're so helpful to each other, and I think it's because nobody is all the sides of the die at one time. You need support, you need that help, but without breaking any SEC restrictions, so you're not allowed to entice investors, can you please describe the person in real estate who you feel you could help more than anybody else? Like maybe because of my digital background, I'm always on the lookout for more sponsors and KPs, but what about you?
Just investors that want to come in, passive investors that want to jump into deals, get nice returns. That's kind of what I'm looking for, to build a bigger network of people. And also, I have this theory that I have, which is kind of a known thing now. We get your duplexes, and the duplexes are, they do well, but they don't make that much money. So I'm going to be selling some of them off and getting into some of the 506Bs and jumping into some syndications and hopefully finding some bigger deals for myself. Bring some people along with me. I have a group of investors that are interested. So hoping that we can, build up a group and do that, and also join other people's deals. There are a lot of great people. Like you said, there's so many people. It blows me away how many people in this community help one another. There's no secrets. Nobody's trying to keep a secret. You can talk to the top guys in the country, and they speak very candid about things. It's really amazing. It's something that you don't realize is there until you really get your foot into it.
Yep. I completely agree. And it's not like, there's some, like, I'm just thinking about the other professions I've been in. And in tech, there's some like platforms or whatever where you have that, it's straight out altruism, right? But it's a fantastic thing. But let's get to ideal property. So when a commercial investor talks to another commercial investor and says, what's your ideal property? What's your buy box? Something like that. There's really three things that they're asking for. First is the geography. Like, what state are you looking at? What county are you looking at? The second one is the unit count, because you need to have an idea of the size. Okay. So if somebody says, oh, anywhere between 5 and 5,000 units, it's like, what? It's just like, no, those are two entirely different beasts, and they probably aren't going to have the same sort of conversation. So you got the geography, you got the unit count, and the third one's the class. They would use an A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus scale for class, and it's split into two different parts. One is the conditions, the building, and then the other one is for the vicinity to schools, crime rate, just basically quality of the area. So Brian, for you, when it comes to a property that's easier to say yes to and it's more difficult to say no to, can you describe that for me?
So I always look for a little bit of value add. I want to, the last deal I found has 2 floors that aren't finished. And so it's a 5-floor building. So it's like a perfect thing for me. I know I can add value to the project. And so I look for that. I look for, areas where I'm seeing some population growth. You're seeing a lot of jobs coming into the sector. Even if I'm getting hints that, hey, this area here is very business friendly, then I'm interested in looking. So, that's kind of what I look for. For myself, I'm not real big, so I'm looking at units that are like 30 to 50 units. Maybe I could go a little bit more once I get some investors that want to jump in deals. But really, that's my sweet spot. That's where I'm looking right now and trying to build up. That's about it.
All right, awesome. And so you've described the people who are best suited to reach out to you already. What's the best way to reach out? We met through a meetup, and I find those meetups generally through LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. So is LinkedIn the best spot, or is there a website that's better or something?
Yeah, LinkedIn is my go-to. I love LinkedIn. I think there's so many great people on there. So yeah, I like that. I like going to the meetups. I like, meeting all kinds of people and networking. But, LinkedIn's easy to find me.
All right, beautiful. Yep. And I've only got one other thing, which is actually not for you. It's actually for you in the camera there, which is I'm going to need you. There's this big campaign. It's really important. It might be a matter of national security. Okay. You need to stop the red button. Okay. The way to stop the red subscribe button is you move your cursor or you use your finger and you click on it and it turns it gray. And that's the only way to eliminate the imminent threat of subscribe buttons. And it has an extra added benefit. What it means is YouTube pays for these videos instead of me. So you want to do that, right? And it's free. It costs you absolutely nothing. Okay. So pretty please, with sugar on top, make YouTube pay me for this stuff. All you have to do is hit that. The real effect is that it means that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions. You can go ahead and ignore those videos if you want, as long as you just hit the button, because that means you've done me an enormous favor. Just like Brian, you've done me an enormous favor by joining me today. This has been fantastic.
Oh, it's amazing. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. All right, awesome. Take care.